Hello, it is May 9th and we are ready for another day of lofty May vlogs. My name is Tracy and I am the host of the Knitting on the Float podcast. And this month, each day throughout May, I am straightening a little space in our loft, which is just up there. And I am creating a nice space for my crafts. And I'm also working on an area where people can sit and do some work because it'll be an office area, a sitting area, and most importantly, my crafting area where all of my lovely yarn stash and crafty supplies are kept. It is a big job, and that's why I'm taking the whole month to do little bits and pieces because sometimes it can be overwhelming if you tackle everything all at once. When we moved from Toronto to Vancouver, we had to be very intentional about the things that we brought with us. We were moving from a 3-story, beautiful Edwardian home, had lots of room, and it had a basement, to basically what is the equivalent of a box on water. The float house is limited in space. There is no yard to put anything in, and there is definitely not a basement. I joke around and say if the kids are bad, they can go to the basement. Davy Jones's locker. Anyway, there's not really a lot of space to put extra things. So we had to be very, very intentional about what we brought with us. And at the beginning of the month, I sat down with a piece of graph paper and I plotted out how I wanted the loft area to look when I'm done. And I did the same before we moved in here. I sat down with graph paper. I measured everything out. Thankfully, we had a great floor plan. I had the realtor check how high the walls were so that I knew that our dresser with the mirror would fit underneath the sconce. So I had checked a lot of these things off so that when Greg and I sat down and made a list of the things that absolutely had to come with us, we were pretty good. So we have downsized, and I've been fairly good about not bringing too much extra into the house. I did not touch my yarn stash, though. I decided there was just so many things going on, and I just figured I would deal with the yarn stash when we arrived here. And the great thing was that the yarn and the fiber was a great packing tool to put around a lot of the breakable things. However, that meant when we got here, a lot of it just got thrown back in the bins because the bins were used for bringing other things in the move. And I didn't really have everything properly settled in the craft space or in the sitting area. So that's been the last area that has really been worked on. Also, when we first moved here, I had Isaac's room because Isaac was away at college and he had a dresser in his room and a lot of my sewing things went into that dresser. So it was really organized when we first moved here in that regard. It's just the yarn stash wasn't quite as organized as it had been in Toronto. When Isaac moved back home, I then had to clear out things I had put in his room, and the sewing things, a lot of them went into the linen closet. I have 2 shelves in the linen closet that have fabric and cutting mats and different things like that. I do think, though, at the end of the month, I'm going to need to do another just going through straightening that area because it has taken a little bit of the overflow when I've said, where should I put this? In the sewing cupboard. It will all get done. That's what we have the whole month for. Anyway, one of the boxes that did not get unpacked is right here. And I shared this with you yesterday. I gave you a little bit of a hint. I have these beautiful letters, and if you can read here, it says Fragile Isaac Nathaniel letters. And then the ones that didn't fit went into another box, and I had already emptied that box. But I wanted to keep this as safe as possible for as long as possible. And these are letters that each of the boys have had, and they spell out their names. I think this one is an N. So N, Nathaniel, and then we have the E and the L for his name as well. So I'm just going to empty out this box and put all the letters out, and then I'm going to put them upstairs. And I've been excited about doing this. I've been wanting to do it for quite some time, but I also knew that things may be safer sometimes in the box until you're ready to get to it. So today is the day we get to it. Here are the letters, and here is the box. These all need to come out, be unwrapped, and then we will have these beautiful Winnie the Pooh letters to put upstairs. My boys have lots of A's in their names, and I think when it came to spelling out both Isaac and Nathaniel, I cleared out the store of all of the A's. I think I may have even had to go to several stores. They used to sell these in Hallmark, but unfortunately no longer. I think this is an I. I am correct. When my parents were driving through Northern Ontario on their way to British Columbia last year, they came across a little gift shop in Northern Ontario that amazingly had some of these letters left. So my mom picked up a couple of those, plus some gorgeous little magnets. And oh my goodness, wait till you see these magnets. They are adorable. I didn't have any particular words that were able to be spelled, but I loved this Q when my mom showed me some photos. And of course I had to have an I. I do have an N as well in the magnets for Nathaniel. But the cutest one is the Y. Any guesses why? Because Piglet is all entangled in this cute little ball of yarn, and oh, so adorable. So that is the letter. It's got a little bit of a magnet on it, and I have a whiteboard that I put these on, and then if I need to put something underneath it, I can, but for the most part it's just decoration. Another A. I'm just going to unwrap these quickly, and I will see you once I've done that. I have all the things I need right here. I've got a hammer, nails, a level, and of course all of the letters. I just need to make sure I've got them spaced out the way I want them. So I'm going to need to do a little bit of planning, measuring. Each of the letters has a little spot here to put a nail in, and I think there's even a couple that have two, so I have to be very aware of which letters those are. Nathaniel has quite a few doubled letters, but level's very important, and of course a hammer, and the ladder is already upstairs, so we're going to do a little bit of measuring and then go upstairs and put these where I want them. I think I'm going to take the bunting down, and then I'm going to measure it out, and hopefully I get it centered and spaced out nicely. Isaac's name's a lot easier to do than Nathaniel's because he's only got the 5 letters compared to Nathaniel's 9. And also Isaac's letters only have one nail hole each. So there's a reason I have been procrastinating this job as long as I have. This lovely bunting from Jules Hill, who is So Sweet Violet, is probably going to go somewhere in this space. This was bought for the Jubilee last year, and I popped one over each of the boys' doors just to make it a little bit fun. And I'm not sure where I'll put this, somewhere in here I'm sure, and it'll go nicely with the bigger bunting, also from Jules, that I have on the railings around here. So my mini bunting. Detailed work needs glasses. I have the level to make sure it's level. I've also measured out that I want to put Isaac's letters in 15 inches. So I'm going to figure out the center, mark where I would like those letters to be, and then probably work out from there. This is 36 inches across. I want the letters to fit in 15 inches. So I need to do a little bit of math and go from there. Now 36, that would be 18. The center point is right there. So I put a little center mark there, and then if I go 7.5 on each side of that, put a little mark. I am aiming to have Isaac's name fit between my 2 index fingers here, and let's get to this. At least both my boys have odd numbers of letters in their names, so I can start out in the center and work out, although not all letters have the same width. For example, an I and an A aren't going to be quite the same, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful as I do this. I've drawn a line along the top, and I'm going to put the bottom of the letters on that line. Thankfully this is dark, so I won't necessarily see the pencil lines. However, I also have an eraser too, so I could erase it if I need to. Let's get that hammer in those letters and some nails. The other thing about these letters is this isn't quite centered at the top of the letter. I imagine it's placed so that it balances nicely, but it's not perfectly in the center. I guess it's also placed so that it doesn't ruin the ceramic. I have a pocket full of little finishing nails. I've drawn a line along here, and I've drawn a couple of little points to know where I want to start, where I want to end. And what I'm doing is I am placing the letter where I want the letter to start. I'm finding where the hole is, figuring it out, throwing nails around. Thankfully, as I mentioned, I have a pocket full. So I'm sort of putting a little indent as to where I think I'm going to want to have the letter, and I'll go across and figure that out. And then hopefully at the end of it, I will have it a nice straight line, evenly spaced, and looking great. It is definitely harder than it looks. I think I also need to put a few more nails in my pocket. I've marked the I and the C, so the beginning and the end, and then I can hopefully figure out the spacing in between. I've angled the finishing nails just up a little bit so that when I put the letters on, they stay on, because being in a house that moves, you don't want things falling off, especially these ones. I love them and they are breakable. So there we are. There is the I and the C. Now I just need to do the letters in between. I wanted to make sure these were all put up before Isaac got home, and look at that, I've got it done. I will tell you, this one here, I had a little bit of trouble and I maybe had to move the finishing nail a little bit. It's okay, it looks good. So, there is Isaac's name done above his door. Now comes the really hard one. Nathaniel, all 9 letters. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. The great thing about pencils is they have erasers. So I am just going to erase my line. Having that pencil line was really great to help me get it even, but having an eraser on my pencil is even better. I've now erased that line and I think it looks lovely. Perhaps a little kitschy, but cute. Yesterday, I shared a little clip that Isaac got accepted to a local theater arts program in Vancouver. And he actually already has a 3-year diploma from a musical theater program in Ontario. But because of COVID, his second year, he spent a lot of that time basically in a cinder blocks type of room, his residence room. And we thought it might be a good idea for him to get a little bit more experience. And where the program in Ontario really focused on his voice and dance, although it was very hard to do dance classes during COVID because a limited amount of people you could be around. And so he would do a class every other week, but they would have to split the numbers of pupils in that class in half. So it wasn't really the best learning experience, as is the case for so many of our young people. So we just thought it might be really good for him to focus on his acting, his movement, and while he won't be working on the singing voice, he'll certainly be working on the acting voice. And in Vancouver, there is a very big TV and movie industry happening here. So perhaps getting that experience with this college will allow him to get some of the training so that he can branch out into film, television, and not just musical theater. Now the one that I have been dreading, Nathaniel's name. All 9 letters. I'm going to take down the bunting, and I've got some little finishing nails just holding that up, so I'll take those out as well. And I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to draw a line, figure out how long his name should be, and do some math, and then start fiddling with those letters. His is a little bit more difficult because a lot of his letters are wider and have 2 hooks on them, not just the one, which is great for staying on the wall for security's sake, but challenging for putting lots of little holes in the wall. Easy enough to fill in and paint another time though, isn't it? I'm not looking forward to this, I'm really not. But when I'm done, I can celebrate. I've laid the letters out the way that I want them, and where Isaac's name, I wanted it spread over 15 inches. Nathaniel spreads out over 30. So I've got to take 3 inches here, 3 inches here on the 36-inch door there, and mark where I want the last letter to end, the first letter to begin, and then figure out all the letters in between. That's not too hard, is it? I've marked my center spot and where I have the last letter and the first letter ready to start. So let's reach for those nails in my pocket, grab that hammer, and get to work. There's probably a much better way to do this, but if there is, I am not doing it. Nathaniel's name is going to be super hard because two of them, and it's not easy to just line it up. Oh, it's going to be so fiddly, but when it's done, it's going to look fantastic. I just know it. I am slowly getting there. I'm hoping that the last three letters fit in there without looking too gappy. I do not want to have to put any more holes in the wall. This has definitely been a workout today. I've had to open the skylights because it is so warm. I am down to the last nail. I've measured. Oh, cross fingers this works because I don't want to do this anymore. And let's pop that last A on. I think I need to put it in just a tiny bit more and on an angle, and it'll be perfect. Whew, I am hot. Going up and down that ladder, I definitely got my steps in. If I thought I got my steps in yesterday, I definitely got it in with the ladder today. But look, Nathaniel there, Isaac over there, a job that I have been putting off but wanting to get done for ages, and I think it's a job well done. There may be a few extra little holes than I anticipated, but thankfully the letters cover those over. There we are. Nathaniel's name is over his door. And then if we come over here, Isaac's name is over his door. And together, they look so fun. I was just about to put the ladder and all the things away, and then I remembered I need to erase my lines. So don't want to forget that, especially before taking the ladder downstairs. I'm warm enough already. Here we are. Nathaniel's name is above his door. And if we pan over here, Isaac's name is above his door, along with his Oscar the Grouch cross stitch. If I were to do a cross stitch for Nathaniel's door, which Sesame Street character do you think would be best to choose for him? I'm thinking maybe either Grover or Elmo. It is so much cooler outside than up in the loft. So it is nice to get outside and get a breath of fresh air. I've come out. There are two parent geese and some goslings just on the bank behind me. We'll take a few moments, watch them, and then we're going to go inside, have that well-earned beverage, and have a little chat about the knitting. While I was upstairs working in the loft, I could hear Greg chatting with our neighbor, and they were talking about this water lot here. On Friday, it's going to be loud around here, the pilings are going to be going in to hold the house that's being built right here. Now this little spot that is in the shade, the first 10 feet beside my house, are part of my property, and then there's another 10 feet beside my neighbor's house. So probably all that shaded area will be water, and then there will be a house going here very soon, and they're going to put pilings in. Pilings are these pieces of metal here. Sometimes they can be made of wood as well. And what they do is they hold the house in place so that it doesn't float off down the river. Finally, we can have a seat. It has been a day. I know that putting 14 letters up on a wall doesn't sound like it's a whole lot, but there were lots of steps involved and lots of little tweaks. And then if it didn't quite work out, I had to go back down the stairs, fix it out. There was measuring, but I'm really pleased with how it looks when I look up there. It definitely brings me joy. I have had a set of letters since Isaac was really tiny, and we got Nathaniel's letters when he was small too. They don't make them anymore, so Greg and I unfortunately don't have our names in Winnie the Pooh letters, but it really feels so good to finally have them up over the doors. Hopefully when boats go by, they don't get knocked off, because that would be catastrophic. There's a little lip in there on the finishing nail that hopefully stops them from falling off. But for now, I have earned a well-deserved beverage, and today I am not drinking out of the Rendale mugs. I'm just drinking straight out of the Fentimans bottle. I picked this up at one of the local specialty grocery stores a while back, and I've been saving it for a special occasion, and finally getting those letters up is definitely a special occasion to me. So let's crack this one open. And when my mom and I were in England, I would get these with my dinners. I love them. So I'm glad that I found two places that carry them nearby, and I think I may need to stock up on some more. I've got one bottle left in the fridge, and then this one. So let us say cheers to getting those steps in and to a job well done. Cheers to that. It's time for me to share a little bit of how my Shoo Sui shrug is coming along. And this is a pattern by Susanna Summer, who is Sosu. It is a wonderful mix of garter and brioche, and I am really enjoying it so far. I originally started out with two different main colors. Actually, one stayed the same. I was using this Glacier by Hedgerow Yarns, and this is a silky single, so it's silk and merino, all on a singles base. And then I had been using a gorgeous skein called Pink Grapefruit. It was a beautiful soft pink with little bits of orangey yellow in it. However, when I held my yarns together, it was so hard to see the difference. And while it knit up beautifully, it just wasn't quite the look I was aiming for. I wanted something a little bit more poppy. So I switched out to this skein of Viola, and this is a merino singles, and the colorway is Thistle. So it now is definitely poppy. And last night I added, I believe, 3 more repeats to my shrug. I've caught my yarn on a progress keeper. There we are. This is my right side, and this is my wrong side. And in the introductory video where Susanna talks about setting up and knitting this shrug, she says you can actually reverse it. You can just turn it inside out if you would like to. I may have to do that, but I am absolutely so thrilled with how this combination is knitting up. I may have to wear it reversed because I absolutely am enthralled by both sides. I love how the purple shows up here, and I love how the Glacier pops on this side. So I was thinking as I was knitting last night how happy these colors are making me, and I am so glad that I did change my mind and put the pink grapefruit back in the stash for another project and pulled something that I knew would make my heart sing. And yes, my heart is definitely singing. Love it. So 3 more repeats, and I'm really loving this counting checklist. I can make sure that I am right on track. So I've done 6 repeats altogether, and the rows are getting longer, but it's a really simple repeat section, and the brioche is really easy to pick up. I've done some brioche projects before, and it was just like riding a bike. You started knitting again and that muscle memory, it came back. But if you were just learning brioche, I think it would be very easy to pick up. And I really found the setup video that Susanna Summer has put together was very helpful. Anyway, that is my gorgeous Shusui shrug, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to work on this tonight or pull something else out. I still need to secure the ends of my 2nd Avenue wrap. I think Nathaniel is going away this weekend, so I may take advantage of the fact that he is at cadet camp and take over his bed and block my 2nd Avenue wrap, which means I need to have those ends secured so I can do that properly. Plans. Anyway, my beautiful yarns and shrug back into my So Sweet Violet, my celebration bag, ready for some more knitting as the days go by. Thank you for joining me on this lofty May day. I hope that wherever you are, you have had a wonderful one. And whether you have been straightening along with me, or you've been crafting, or maybe you're just taking some calm time for yourself, I hope that whatever that has looked like for you, that you have enjoyed our visit today. I definitely am so happy that I finally got those letters up, and tonight I'm going to have a nice relax myself. I have just made myself a proper cup of tea, and I've put it in my big Winnie the Pooh mug because that just seems fitting as far as I can see. Wishing you all the best, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we get to do a little bit of heavy lifting. And you know, I have to say, you'd think that that was a very light job today, but I broke a sweat. I really did. Nathaniel, go up and see what I did to Isaac's door.
Thank you.
Not just Isaac's door, your door too. Do you love it?
Yes.
And look, I spelled it wrong.
No, you didn't.
I know. That would be really bad if I did, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You love it?
Yeah.
Yep, good. Now all you need is a matching,
No.
not Oscar, another one.
No.
No, you don't want a Sesame Street one? I was looking at some.
No.
I saw a Cookie Monster,
No.
an Elmo,
No.
a Big Bird.
No.
Really? Aw.